Go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Donna, please call the roll.
Butch Schleier.
Present.
Chair Dean Hazelhorst.
Present.
Destin Robb.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Any changes to the order of business this evening? I know we have, go ahead, Phil, fill us in.
Yes, sir, we would request to add a special proclamation between items 5 and 6,
Okay,
and then we will have one executive session.
one executive session. Good enough. Any other changes, commissioners?
No.
Dustin, no. Butch, no. Okay, we'll move on to prior minutes. May 13th, Phil had some corrections, if you guys noticed them.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Nothing else.
Stand approved as presented. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I move we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Do we have anyone? Neil? Come up and talk to us.
Good evening, and I'm Neil Younger, resident from Munger. All those who had anything to do with helping clean up Munger, I appreciate it. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank everyone, okay?
Thank you, Neil, for coming.
Thanks, Neil.
I'm presuming that was public work, so thank you very much, Bill. Monthly departmental report. Everybody have a chance to review?
Yeah, I got a question for Carrie. If you could come up, Carrie. I would just like to know what a couple of these things mean. Under your epidemiology, there's a CRAB and a CRPA and a CRE. What do those stand for?
Those are, let me see how that's presented.
Sure.
It's your ology report.
Those have come through the EpiTrack system.
Mm-hmm.
State. And not sure what that is. Those came directly from the nurses, so I'll check
Okay,
find that out.
sure. You can just get back with me.
I will.
I'm just interested.
Yeah, understandable.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Butch. Dustin, anything?
Nope, nothing from me. Good work on those.
It's always very complete as usual. Thank you, department heads, for putting that together. Next item is our proclamation for EMS week. We've kind of already started EMS week, but we have a proclamation of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners, EMS week proclamation to designate the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2019 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police, officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value of the accomplishments of the emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week now, therefore, the Ellis County Commission, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2019, as Emergency Medical Services Week. With the theme, EMS Strong, Stronger Together, we encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Board of Ellis County Commissioners. Thank you for bringing that, Carrie, and Phil for putting that together. And for signing it, Commissioners. Next, we'll move on to Ellis County PSAT. Darren Myers, please come up.
Good evening, Commissioners. Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management. Here tonight in behalf of the actual communications center, dispatch center down in our basement of the LEC. Just want to give the commission an update. Several years ago, we entered into an agreement with the NG 911 Coordinating Council, which is a hosted solution that we have with the council as well as AT&T provide the incoming 911 lines into our center, as well as how they link to our mapping solution that we have. And then we also keep in track or update here within Ellis County. The part of that project, which was several years out when we signed on to the next gen 911 system, was the EZNet cutover, which is the EZNet Emergency Services internet network that creates a network of networks, so that way when you call 911, it is routed differently rather than our current basic phone lines that come in basically into your house. It comes in through an IP network now and gives us some additional options in the future. One would be the instant you call 911, it almost immediately rings into the dispatch center. It doesn't take 2 or 3 rings before it's actually received there and then picked up. So it's those first initial critical moments of calling 911, getting help is going to be reduced, as well as technology when it changes into the future. We'll also have the availability to have more options for residents or the community to call 911. Everybody always thinks is the typical way to contact 911 is by calling 911. About a year ago, we switched over to allow texting to 911 to work. However, it's not very popular yet, but it's the option. The EZNet allows us to increase that bandwidth that comes into the dispatch center and allows for other options besides just texting. They'll be able to send videos and pictures in the future as well. One might ask why videos and pictures may be necessary technology to allow. Not everybody, when they call 911, is able to speak or talk loudly on the phone. They might be able to text a picture of where they're at, if they're lost in the county or if they're being held hostage. They might be able to text. They might be able to send a picture of a live stream of what's going on to allow us to gain information during that emergency incident. So with that, that cutover date's coming up on May 23rd. AT&T and the NG 911 Council will be here to do that cutover. They'll be starting in the morning, doing several hours of testing through local phone lines as well as cell phone companies to make sure everything works. And then later that day, do the full switch over to the EZNet. There is no cost additions to this, as stated in your agenda packet. Most likely it'll save Ellis County several $100s a month from not having those telephone lines down in the communications center. It's part of the annual package subscription that we pay to the coordinating council. Also, good news that we will also be able to start receiving more money for savings for the future dispatch center upgrades, as there's a House Bill 2084 that passed this year, increasing those funds that we receive in Ellis County. Currently, that's 60 cents per cell phone line. It's jumping up to $1.03. But Ellis County's portion of that will go from roughly 97% of that 60 cents to 97% of 66 cents. So roughly about a 10% increase we'll be able to continue to save year by year through that tax collected by the state. So with that, I'll ask if you have any questions.
I have none.
No, I have none.
Oh, you've been
Thank you
working
for
on
the
it a while,
update.
so that's great.
Yep.
Mhm.
Anything,
your time.
Dustin?
Nope, nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank Darren. Award of bid 2019 for asphalt. Bill Ring.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. You have before you on the packet tonight, it's an annual bid we put out for cold mix for when we redo the roads with asphalt, cold asphalt in the summertime. We only had one contractor bid on it, one of those that has bid on it many times in the past and has won it. They got out of the asphalt business at the end of last year. They're still in business as a company doing other things, but they decided to quit mixing asphalt. So we did it a little differently this year. We actually asked for a bid from somewhere between 1,500 and 8,000 ton. Last year, we bid 3,000 ton total. And the reason for that is we still haven't got a complete overview of using cold in place and costs. That bid will be coming back in the end of this week for the cold in place recycling that we've done. But trying to stretch dollars, if we can do more roads ourselves with cold mix, we may look to that. And we've also waiting on the final analysis. They did a considerable amount of coring of the roads that we intend to look at, the ones we might do. We haven't got a report. I haven't even read it yet. It came in late this afternoon with some results of that. So I don't believe we'll use all 8,000. We may, but I just want to be covered so that we can get the most out of the, funds in our budget and get as many roads done as possible this summer. So is there any questions about the bid or the results or anything, or?
I have no questions, Bill. It's same one
And
we
it's,
do every
and
year.
it's really, it's only, as you see, it's only $1.32 a ton more than the actual bid was last year. So we came in pretty good on the price to us. And because the vendor their yard is at the next mile line from us, they'll hold whatever we decide to have made. We can either get it, pick it up there and go, or we can bring it back as needed. It's not going to be an interference problem with the size of their yard to store it, during the time.
No questions, Butch?
Bill, with this 8,000 tons of cold mix, how many miles of road do you think that would cover?
That's an excellent question that I probably can't. Probably 20.
Okay.
I can get you an answer tomorrow on that.
Well, that
But it depends on
approximation's
road
good.
width and the thickness and whatnot of it, and which particular roads we're doing. There's not, I can get you a ballpark. It won't be exact, but it'll be closer.
Didn't last year we do 14? You remember?
On the cold in place, we did 9.
No, that was the stuff out by Antonino.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we use the
Catherine.
recycling machine and whatnot, but I'd have to pull numbers to find out the exact amount of mileage.
Okay.
It sounds like this might be more advantageous, even though it's slightly costlier, to have them right down the road and being able to hold and store.
Right, and they're the only ones that did bid it, so,
Yeah.
fortunately, the other ones, it's just something they decided to change their business model. Now, we still will use them. They still continue to sell aggregate, rock, sand, et cetera, which we will use them for, should they be successful at a bid, but they're just not going to do the asphalt side of it.
Okay. I move the commission accept the low bid from APAC Kansas Inc. Shears Division up to 8,000 tons of asphalt using option number 2 mix of 60% sand and 40% screenings.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
And then I would like to just enlighten the commission on one other thing dealing with roads. The county administrator and I talked here a couple weeks ago, and it looks like what our plans are, if you remember on the road tour, when we were up on Feedlot Road, and we gave you, Dave Hoffman had put together the sheet with various options. And after looking at that, we believe the best interest of the county to improve Feedlot, and also with the entire concept that our end goal, which we all know is, the 230th, would be to do the double prime and seal. We would mill it up, put a layer down, prime it, and then do it again. That would give us, for the short term, it would give us the best for the dollars spent. And then after the city has their construction and the road wear and tear, but it would get us through that time frame, I believe, while the roundabouts are being put in and God knows how much traffic. And then depending on how we take the rest of the 230th, the Northwest Business Corridor project, we would probably end up redoing that and actually putting a hot mix down on it. So, and that's all budgetary money and labor out of, with staff, so that would be normal maintenance for us, but we feel that would be in the best interest of the county and the project to do that. And it would probably give us the longevity that we're looking for short-term longevity, if you would.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make you all aware that that's where we're headed with that.
Perfect, thank you.
That sound all right?
Yeah, thanks for looking
Okay.
into that.
Yep,
All right.
thanks for the update.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Don't think so. Next item, sales tax election timing. County Clerk Donna Maskus and County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. Thanks for the handout, by the way. It kind of tells us the story.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. I think I'll kick it off, and then County Clerk Maskus can fill in as you have additional questions. So last week, you asked staff to put together some information regarding timing. What was in your packet showed some of the timing for 2013. That was slightly different than this year because, of course, this year we're looking at doing the city school election rather than a special election. So I've Donna and I talked this morning, talked with Councilor Jeter, and we have some additional dates for you. So the election would be on November 5th if you went with the city school election. Advance voting would actually begin on October 21st. Voter registration would close on October 15th. Federal ballots would be required to be mailed out by September 20th, and our election vendor would need information to prepare ballots no later than September 5th. You would also be required to adopt a resolution to put the question on the ballot. That resolution is adopted under the bond law, even though this is not actually a bond. That's all sales tax questions are subject to that same statute. That requires 2 publications. The first publication must be not less than 21 days prior to the election, and that is the October 15th date as well that voter registration closes. So basically, by September 5th is sort of your key date. We need to have something in place before then in order to get the ballots done. In addition, as the chair mentioned, Clerk Maskus handed out information about election turnout percentages going back almost a decade here. So You can see how that varies. Obviously, the general elections that have a president or a governor on them tend to draw more voters than the city school elections do. So that's what staff has for you this evening, and I or Clerk Maskus or Counselor Jeter would be happy to answer any questions.
Anything to add, Donna, or nope?
We discussed it, we kept it, yeah, thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Well, Commissioners, as you know from last week when we discussed sales tax one way or the other, I can say I talked to quite a few department heads this past week, and my phone is rather busy all week long and weekend, and graduation parties I was at, and getting public comments, so that was good. I'll just be very upfront and tell you both, I don't think we have enough time to put it on a ballot in November. I was involved in it last time along with a few people sitting in the audience, Carrie and Bill. And I think that's probably everybody, and Donna, of course, and Bill Jeter, but I don't feel we have enough time to get everything put together, go out and educate the public on what our needs are. I think we need to sit back and look at this as the budget progresses forward. We don't know where our medical or our healthcare expenses are going to be yet. We don't have final numbers on the budget yet, and we still have to look at outside agencies. I know, Butch, you brought that up earlier. You want to look at that. We haven't done any of that. I just feel we're jumping in the wagon. We don't have a horse to pull it yet. And until we go out and educate the public and really start putting things together, the time we get brochures and handouts and all the slideshows we did, as Bill Ring knows and Carrie knows, it took months, and I mean months, to put this together. Donna Maskus, I know, worked on that tirelessly, her and her staff. I think they spent, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 months on it before we ever took it to the public. And I think Donna can probably vouch for, they had a lot of, they just had a lot of great handouts, and I think really until we have time to sit down and work through all that and be ready to go to the public, I think we're rushing something that I don't think we're going to even be able to educate the public on. As Phil said, ballots got to be printed by September, right? September 5th. We have, basically this is almost the end of May. We won't even be ready to go to the public before July 1. There's no way. I don't think it'd even be close by July 1. I think we're looking at middle of July, time we take it to the public. And last time I believe we had 10 town hall meetings, I think, between all the outlying communities and Hayes, and we don't have enough time to do 10 meetings or 8 meetings and do this the proper way. I guess if we're going to do it, I want to do it the right way and not just jump into this and let's just say we're going to have a sales tax, whether it's a quarter cent, a half cent, a full cent, whatever the magic number is that you guys feel is correct. And I can tell you, I've had a lot of calls from the outlying communities, Victoria and Ellis, and quite a few people from the city of Hayes over this past week. And they all have needs and wants. Victoria has needs and wants, Ellis does, the city of Hayes does. They all have needs and wants. Sandy's sitting in the back. She can probably testify as a city commissioner and as a person paying taxes in our community. That City of Hayes has needs too. They have things they want to build, they have things they want to do and improvements. And I just think we're just trying to push this through way too fast, whether we decide to share it, don't share it. But I can tell you from all the calls I've had, they all have needs. So again, I think we need to really work with Phil on this going forward and see how the budget comes in as we're going, and see where our healthcare comes in, that expense, our outside agencies. We haven't heard from any of them yet, and until we do, I just think we're trying to push something through that we don't have enough time to educate ourselves and or the public on. So that's where I stand. Butch, you look like you're wanting to say something. Go ahead. I'm done.
I agree with you 100%, Dean. I give this a lot of consideration, and I've also consulted some individuals. We're already into the vacation season.
Mm-hmm.
Summer activities have started. It's not the best time. People aren't real receptive to being educated on an issue like this. We really couldn't get any good education done on this thing till after Labor Day. Now you're only talking 7, 8 weeks till it's advance voting. We don't have sufficient time to do this. We got a lot of education to do. You know, Dustin makes a good point last week. The sooner we can get it on board, the better off we are. However, you have to get this thing passed. 20% voter turnout isn't good,
No.
and we're better off to work with a general election on that. A lot of education we need to do, not just the public, but our employees too, as to what a tax would and wouldn't be used for. So we got a lot of things here to hammer out. In addition, if we wait till 2020, it's going to give the public a chance to see two budget cycles that we're going to go through. And they're going to be well aware of the fact that things are pretty tight here at the county after 2 budget cycles. So I think it's just best we wait till 2020.
Thank you, Butch. Dustin?
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of thinking about it too. I've heard the same concerns that you guys have heard, obviously. I just want to make sure that we're comparing, you know, apples to apples on this deal, because I feel like there is one sales tax issue that is going to take a lot of teaching. And that would be a half-cent sales tax that ties in roads and infrastructure costs. I can definitely imagine that the type of sales tax we passed last time would have required quite a bit of teaching. I mean, a typical conservative like me isn't going to like the idea of getting a half-cent sales tax passed for buildings very often. You have to teach them. You have to make sure that they buy in, that you need it, that it isn't a want, that it is a need. And I think that, you know, I would definitely agree with you if we went towards a half cent, that there'd be no way. I wouldn't want a half cent on this election cycle. I don't think that we can do it. The big fear I have of us not taking a shot, and here's my thought process with timing, is if we do a 1/4 cent sales tax directed towards our high-level EMS service, and we take the time to teach Ellis County about what kind of level of EMS service we have, I don't feel like that takes as much time as infrastructure, as buildings, as things like that. I think this is cut and dry. It even gets to borderline emotional. These are the type of things that I think are easy for us to do, and honestly, I think it's an excellent marketing opportunity for the county to teach people what we do. Even coming in as a county commissioner, I had no idea the level of EMS that we have, and I've lived in Hayes since 2004. So, you know, the idea that we get an opportunity, so I guess the question that I'm going to run and pose to you guys is, there's a couple things I'm really worried about in the county, and one of it is losing talent. The idea that we go through another budget session not knowing if we're going to get a sales tax or not, we got to make really, really tough decisions next year. And in every business, we have issues that they're called talent drain. Anytime you start cutting back on budgets or cutting back on pay, or having people not know if their job or position is available in the next budget cycle, typically what happens is you lose your top quality staff, because immediately if they're worried about their job, they can put a resume out, and because they're top quality staff, they get an interview. And then when they get an interview, they get a job, and they don't want to sit around and risk the idea of us not being able to figure out our budget. So the question I want to pose, and this is something that obviously we've all weighed on pretty hard, and I haven't been a part of selling a sales tax. I know it will take time and energy. I don't know how much money it will take to educate people, but I know it will take time and energy from our staff and us. I'm okay with wasting as much time and energy as I need to teach people about Ellis County EMS. I think that's something I'm committed to do, if that's something we want to do. But I'm a little worried about the idea of us going through another budget session and not knowing that those funds are available, because then we have to make really tough decisions in next budget year based on our projections. And so, you know, that's the only reason I'm appealing to the idea of putting it on the ballot. It's a question of what do we have to lose? And if we don't make this one, do we have an opportunity in next budget cycle to go ahead and do a half cent? And if the best thing for me in this situation is, I feel like this is a discussion between us and the residents and citizens of Ellis County as to whether or not they like this everybody likes it. Everybody likes high-level EMS service. Are we willing to pay for it? And I think that's an easy discussion, a much easier discussion than multiple buildings or road infrastructure or things like that. Most people, I would agree, we'd have to do handouts galore to show them the repair on bridges, the issues with roads. We get inundated with it by Bill in our emails, so we know what's going on, but they don't. And most of them don't even take their car on county roads. They avoid county roads like the plague, because they don't want to get their car dirty and have to go through the car wash. So, you know, that's been my thought on it. You know, I think that, you know, I mean, I guess if we could, I'd really like to have Carrie and Jason talk about their confidence, because that would help me feel more confident. But, you know, this is, I think, a really neat opportunity for them to show what we do. And if there's one thing that I'm pretty good at, running my business and doing the things I've done the last years of my life, it's marketing. And I think if you guys want my help and my expertise in anything that I would feel confident in, it's us being able to teach people what we do at Ellis County EMS. So those are the few questions I'd like you guys to weigh on. What's the worst that could happen? It could get voted down. You know, I'm not so worried about voter turnout. I mean, whoever shows up gets to vote, and if they don't show up, then they don't get a vote. And so while this is good if you're sitting there trying to figure out, you know, what type of election cycle you're going to get different voter demographics or things like that, I think that would work. But this is just a base number. Who's coming? Who's paying attention enough? And I think we will appeal to people who pay attention to our county budget, to people who pay attention to the level of EMS service that we provide. And I think, as I've said before, I think a 1/4 cent EMS tax is something that I can get behind, that I feel has an economic incentive for us as a retirement county. Especially when you look at our reports and the number of calls that EMS goes on, you can tell that a large majority of those are for elderly people. Falls and heart conditions and things like that. So I don't know if Carrie and Jason would want to, but I would love to hear from them and their confidence on it, and what you guys think about what I've said. Like I said, I need both of you guys to be on board if we do it, but you know, conversely, I want to be able to be convinced of it, and it's something that took very little time for me to be convinced of. Even as fiscally restrained as I like to think of myself as, you know, EMS is something that I've gotten real convinced is highly popular.
Well, first of all, I don't think we need Carrie and Jason to do anything tonight. We're not here to educate anybody. The timeline still doesn't change. We have a lot of work to get done in a short period of time. If you're worried about what happens, we go to a 2020 election and it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass at that point, after the public has seen 2 cycles of budgets, then it's just crash and burn time. It's going to be crashing and burning. It's just the way it is. It's what the public would want. I'm willing to roll the dice on that. And I'm not at all convinced at this time I would even support a 1/4 cent sales tax. I'm far from that. I have some other ideas. I still want to run by some things with Phil. We got a lot of discussion about this issue before I'm even on board with a quarter cent.
Bill, you know, in the past, or Donna, maybe one of you can help out on this. We had to where the public could just, like, we had that poll online where we was doing the, help me out here, the county,
The comprehensive plan.
thank you. What would be the chances of putting that online, just, or what's your thoughts on that?
So, while the comprehensive plan got a lot of participation,
Did.
which was great, an online poll is a pretty unscientific
I know.
methodology, and if the commission were interested in seeing where the voters are on this, I would want to talk to somebody about doing professional polling. I know the Docking Institute does that sort of thing. and-
Doesn't Fort Hayes too, or not?
Yeah, the Docking
That's-
Institute's
yeah,
out
that
Fort
is, okay.
Hayes. Yeah. So, I mean, we could certainly research, you know, what something like that would entail. But I think that would be a much more, you'd have a much higher level of confidence in the results than if you just slap something up on SurveyMonkey and
Okay.
post it online.
I guess I would kind of like to see that first, in my opinion, I guess, but also, I mean, I just don't think we have enough time to, Kerry knows what it was like. I attended a lot of meetings with Kerry when we did it last time, and he knows what it was like. It took a lot of time. Whether you're just promoting EMS or you're promoting everything like we did, it took a lot of time. I mean, each of them town hall meetings were, gosh, I don't remember, weren't they each one about 2 hours plus? You guys remember? Bill, you kind of remember? Or Kerry? Kerry says, yes, 2 hours plus. And before we ever got to that point, like I say, Donna and her staff and everybody come up with all the reasons why we needed what we needed and put it all together on all the great handouts we had and all the poster boards we had, and I went to everyone. I just think it's going to take some time to really build confidence in the public and educate them on why we need what we need, whether it's for EMS, whether it's for road and bridges, whether it's a quarter cent, whether it's a half cent. I'm not sure which one I overly support yet either. I mean, the half cent is a good deal, I feel, because the city of Hayes benefits, Ellis benefits, Victoria benefits, you know. Overall, we're getting less money, but at the end of the day, we're helping outlying communities. They all pay taxes like we do. Everyone from every community, every person in Ellis County pays taxes. The quarter cent looks much more enticing, Dustin, just because we get it all. But, you know, I'm not sure which one I support yet either until we really, I see the rest of Phil's numbers that'll come in sometime in June, I believe. He says yes. And until I see them numbers, I guess I can't support a sales tax, whether it's a quarter cent or a half cent, Butch.
I agree.
You know, I don't think I can on that side either until I see the rest of our numbers. And I don't want to rush this. I know last time it took over a year of educating. And it passed like very easily, actually. But I mean, I think the public really understood the needs, the wants of the counties and for jail and EMS and bringing up to our level of service that we needed to provide. And I know Kerry worked very hard at it, and he did a heck of a job on his side of the EMS. And, well, everybody did that was involved in it. I mean, Bill knows all about it. You know, everybody attended every meeting, almost. I think every department head. It was very well representative, thanks to our department heads, Donna and her staff and everybody. So I just really feel we need to get more information from Phil when we see that in June. And then I think at that point, come July, August, then we can start the process, because we're going to need a year. I feel we need a year. And I think Kerry and Bill would both agree, we need some time. I just don't think we could. I know the public would probably lean more towards EMS, that quarter cent, like Dustin has said, I think public probably, if they want that level of care, I think that would be an easier sell / promotion. But I guess until we decide whether it's a quarter cent, a half cent, or how much we're thinking, I just think we just need more time. We just don't have a lot of time. I mean, it's already gonna be June. Next time we meet, it's June. We don't have a meeting next month, or next week, I mean. So it's already gonna be June. And we haven't even started the process of putting numbers together and facts and figures, and it's gonna take Carrie 30 days to do that. And then have everything printed up, that's another 30 out, and then we have to agree on what we're gonna do, and that's another 30 out. We're at 90 days, guys. I'm sorry, but we're at 90 days. And Phil just mentioned September 5th, we have to print ballots, or at least tell the company we have to print ballots. We're ready in August. We haven't went out and visited anybody in the public yet. So, that's my opinion. Butch, further comment?
I agree with you, Dean.
Okay. Dustin, you still kind of set on what you're saying, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, here's the thing that I guess I haven't had answered yet, and that is, what do we have to lose? Is it political capital? What is it? Because that was my number one question that I wanted for you guys tonight is, if this goes and it fails, what have we lost besides effort and time and
money
and our ability to market what we do at Ellis County EMS?
Well, you're gonna be out of ballot cost. I mean, you're gonna have expense there.
We've got a ballot going out anyway, right? So it's another line item. I know it will be a lot of work. I'm not afraid of work. I don't think you guys are afraid of work. You know, I still like to hear from Carrie and Jason if they'd like to talk. I'd like to hear their confidence, if they have any, or if they would say the same thing. Maybe we look into a different budget cycle. I can tell you right now that the President of the United States will be on the ballot in 2020, and there'll be a lot of conservative people out to vote. So when they see a sales tax and who they're voting for there, I'm a little concerned with the idea of the bet on this, and it's what I talked about in talent drain. If I worked for Ellis County, Kansas, and I went through the next budget cycle and watched us make hard decisions because we'll have to either way, and I was highly talented and highly desired by other EMS departments, fire departments, sheriff's departments across the state, maybe I wouldn't go to a county that had financial difficulties, and I would feel a little more secure in my job. And so, you know, those are the two issues that were my main concerns, and I'd like to hear discussion on them, because the last thing I want to do is go through another budget cycle, make hard decisions that I feel will need to be made in case we don't pass a sales tax. And because in the next one, it's real dire based on our projections. And I know what you're saying about getting the numbers. I imagine the numbers aren't going to look good. I just make that assumption because anytime you're talking about healthcare costs and things like that, it just never looks good. So, you know, I come with as much humility as I can, in the sense that I think that this is a little easier to understand than a building sales tax, and I truly appreciate what you guys were able to accomplish with that. But that seems to take a lot more learning than what we're dealing with EMS, which is if one of my loved ones is having a heart attack, I want the most highly trained individual that we can muster to afford in Ellis County showing up at my front door to do their best to take care of them. But I don't know if those guys would be willing to at least come up and discuss this. I know they might not be prepared for it, or maybe they would be willing to say what the difference is. Completely up to you guys. I don't know if you'd want to or not.
Commissioner? Commissioner?
Yep.
In regards to your questions, I've always, in my professional life and my personal life, when I do something, I want to do it right. To try to rush into this thing isn't right. We don't even agree right now on what tax we're going to have. We got three different opinions. I'm not certain we're going to come to agreement. It might be a 2-1 decision. Let's not rush into this till we can get this thing down. We got to do it right or it will fail. And to just try to rush it through, I'm not fearful of what a loss might bring. It's going to bring what the taxpayers want. It's pure and simple. And we just have to do it right. And that's going to take us some time to do it right.
And to answer your question, Dustin, Carrie, and Jason, I'm not going to bring you up here. Jason is not even prepared, and nor would I put you in that situation. Carrie is probably very prepared, but I'm not putting you in that situation tonight either to ask you, do you think it would pass or not by November? Because I think I know your answer already, and I don't know what your answer is, but I'm not putting you in that situation until we actually agree on what we're thinking up here. So thank you for your thoughts, and I know you have an answer, but I'm not bringing you up here.
Well, there's just one more thing I'd like to discuss, and that is the idea of a half-cent sales tax. And the idea of trying to convince me of a sales tax for a half cent is going to be tough. I believe that we risk raising taxes higher than they absolutely need to be. And I take taxation very seriously. I take the idea of us taking money out of hardworking people's pocket if we don't need it, or if it's not a business decision between us and them, very seriously. And I think that we're trying to fix a problem maybe that doesn't exist in the city of Hayes. The city of Hayes does not have financial problems. That's why they didn't send us a letter saying they need more sales tax. It's a political liability for them to ask for more sales tax. I'm sure they could find things that they would do with the money, and maybe they would even be willing to put some of the money towards something that's needed other places. But you know, that's going to be where a hard line is going to be drawn by me, is if I ever feel like we're in fear of raising taxes more than absolutely need be to fund Ellis County. And that's what I like about a quarter cent, is the idea that we can hold the line. We can tell people we're not raising their taxes or property taxes any higher than they are now. But like you said, Butch, I need one of you two to be able to get it on the ballot. And at that point, my vote is no different than anybody else's vote on that ballot. We all get to go to the polling booth and we get to decide which way we want to go on it. But as of right now, I'm not afraid to lose, and there's a saying that we have in business is done is always better than perfect. It might not be perfect, but I think we'd get it done.
So is that saying you're wanting to make a motion for a quarter cent sales tax? Is that what you're leaning to, I'm gathering?
That's what I would lean towards, yes.
Commissioner, I won't support a quarter cent sales tax. If you and Dean want to do it, include me out.
You'll get a vote here in a minute. Does that take it that you're going to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we put a quarter cent sales tax specific to EMS service in Ellis County, Kansas, for the November 5th ballot election cycle.
I'll second that. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those in favor aye, those against?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails 2-1. Thank you both. We have a lot of work to do to get this to where it needs to be, and going forward, I know Phil will have you in lots of conversations also, so thank you for everything you do, and Donna also. Next item, agreement with engineering design consultant for Northwest Business Corridor, County Administrator.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. The item before you this evening is a engineering design contract with Driggs Design Group out of Manhattan. they were selected as part of a competitive process. We sent out requests for qualifications. 5 firms responded. We did interviews and felt that the Driggs Design Group was the firm that brought the most knowledge of Ellis County's specific needs. It was a unanimous decision among the group of folks who were in the interviews. Negotiated a contract with Driggs Design in the amount of $113,130. I would propose that that cost be split, pay half of it out of the administrator contingency budget and half of the funding that the commission previously set aside for the Northwest Business Corridor. My rationale there is that I want to preserve as much of that funding for actual construction as humanly possible, but I don't think the administrator contingency can fully fund it in the current year. So I'd be happy to answer questions. Bill Ring was also part of the selection process.
Okay. Questions, commissioners? Dustin, you can go first.
No, this looks good. I think this is a good start. Big thing, Philip, big thing will be funding on this. Do you feel confident with these guys as far as helping us line this up so we know how to fund it?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Driggs had the most creative ideas of the firms that we talked to. He's already, as I mentioned to you last week, we've started this process with the build grant for submission this summer. He's already working on that. He was one of the folks who was involved in getting us funding back in 2013 on the intersection process. So, he's got a good track record, very willing to work with staff, and I think, I'm not confident we'll succeed with the federal grant, but I think we have as good a shot with this firm as we do with anyone.
Sounds great.
I think he's also working with the Travel Plaza folks too, I believe. I think he's our engineer.
Yeah, so one of the interesting features, we asked about involvement with folks out on the corridor, and the Driggs firm has worked with literally every business that's out there on the corridor at one time or another, in one form or another. So I did, as a consequence of that, I had Mr. Jeter very carefully review the language of the contract, because we want to make sure that our contract is serving county interests and not the interests of other folks out there, because this is a county road. But we're confident. I mean, it's an engineering contract. There's not a lot of room for conflict of interest. Some specific language in there about standard of design. So, but yes, there's a concern with that, but the advantage of that, as you point out, Mr. Chair, is that he does have the ear of several of the stakeholders in the process. So it facilitates us moving forward.
You haven't heard any more from your friends from the chamber, have you?
Nothing from Alan Cobb yet. I know that they are trying to work on Commerce Secretary to see if we can get funds out of that part of state government. But
Sure.
Probably better to contact Representative Wassinger on that. I imagine because they're both in Topeka, it's probably who he's been working through on that. But I know that he has begun the process of going to bat for us on that.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. Anything else, Butch?
No, I think it's just good to keep going in this direction.
Okay, we will need a motion to approve.
I move that the commission approve the agreement with Driggs Design Group, PA, for design consulting of the Northwest Business Corridor project in the amount of $113,130.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Have a motion and a second, Donna. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Move on to County Council report, Mr. Bill Jeter.
County Councilor Bill Jeter, other than the executive session, I don't have a report. Thank you.
Thank you. County Administrator report, Philip Smith Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. I also have no report this evening.
County Commission reports, Dustin.
I just have a couple of announcements. First one's family private announcement. I got some wonderful news. My little brother Lucas, who, to give you an idea and difference of our age without telling everybody how old I am and how old he is, was a kindergartner when I was a senior in high school, and he announced that he's going to put in an application to join the seminary, and so my parents are extremely thrilled. I think we all know he's smarter than all of us, so that's great. And now my mom has a cowboy, a politician, and a priest for sons. So I think there's a bar joke in there somewhere for that. But next week I go to Leadership Kansas. We won't have our Monday meeting, so I have my first Leadership Kansas session. And then one thing I wanted to hit on here was a little bit of we've got the city council and school board elections coming up, city councils and school boards, and I just want to urge people to run. As politicians, I think that we hear complaints a lot from people, and they might even be valid complaints, but sometimes just showing up at the polls isn't good enough. If you can get up there and you can illustrate your idea, and then I suggest people run. Donna, can you give us an idea? When do they have to get in their stuff?
The deadline to file is Monday, June the 3rd at noon.
Wow.
Yep, so coming right up.
And I encourage everyone to get on the website, ellisco.net. There's a lot of information there, and who's filed is there.
Awesome. So yeah, I just want to encourage people to do that if they've ever thought about it. It's highly rewarding to be able to serve people and make some tough decisions for people that will help over long periods of time.
Thank you,
That's it from
Dustin,
me.
for bringing that up.
Yep.
You bet. That's good information. Butch, anything to report?
Just a little bit of a personal note. Yesterday, my wife and I celebrated our anniversary of 46 years.
Hey.
And I told her, I said, it seems just like yesterday.
And she kept you around that long. That's a
I told her-
blessing, right?
I told her, I said, it seems just like yesterday, and you know what a terrible day yesterday was.
Easy. I just got a Workforce One meeting coming up I think it's June 4th. I'd have to go back and look at my calendar, but that's all I have coming up also. And radio show tomorrow morning. With that, I will ask for one of my fellow commissioners to make a motion for executive session.
I'd make a motion, we go into executive session for the discussion of acquisition of real estate for landfill expansion. Included will be the Board of Commissioners, Administrator Phil, Councilor Jeter, and Bill Ring. And it'll be for 10 minutes.
Yep, and we have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Donna? No action. Meeting's adjourned, I'm sorry, meeting's adjourned at 6:07. Thank you all for coming.